You are listening to The Thought Leaders Show with the world's cutting-edge, hottest innovators, influencers, and impact makers today. If you are looking for inspiration and motivation, listen in. Welcome to The Thought Leaders Show. Now, here's your host.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm excited to introduce today's guest. Patricia Rowe, an evidence-based energy healer, is a pioneer in the field of life force healing that can optimize a person's potential and bring mental calmness. Life force is the solution that goes beyond the symptoms to the root cause and is most significant factor for quality health and happiness that exists. Patricia transmits this life force energy to people, animals, nutraceuticals, agriculture, and products. Welcome, Patricia.
Hi, Tammy. It's great to be here.
So we've had some conversations before, so welcome back. And we're at an interesting time in our lives, I believe. It seems like life force energy is something that more and more people are listening to and learning about. And it's all about, like you say, optimizing your potential with life force energy healing. So tell me a little bit more about that, and what are you thinking about today?
Well, yes, we can use the life force energy can help us optimize our potential and become more who we are. And that's really a topic I was thinking a lot about. Becoming who we really are and how we're affected by the groups that we're in. And when we're just from the time we're born, we're brought into different groups with different belief systems. So that has to do with, the family and their belief systems, the schools that we go to, the culture that we're in, the nation that we're in, the politics, professions, or friends, even styles. And so there's all these groups, and they have their beliefs, and everything has energy to it. So the beliefs have that energy to it. And so we're affected by the group consciousness or the group beliefs. And what I'm really interested in is looking at how we can really be free and think for ourselves instead of being influenced by the group consciousness. This is really a subject that means a lot to me. When I was growing up, my father often warned me against mob psychology or crowd psychology, and how when you get in a group and there's a belief, it can take you over. And you could start believing like the group. And I always thought that was really interesting. And I actually studied cultures. I was interested in anthropology. I went into archaeology and studying different cultures around the world, because different cultures have different beliefs. They have different values, different ideas of what's wrong and right. And I wanted to see how that affected everybody. And if we're really being who we are, we should be able to go beyond that. So even children often rebel when they become teenagers. And I think part of that is because deep inside kids know that some of what they've been taught it's really just somebody's philosophy and ideas, and there's this inner knowing that we're really beyond that. And so I think that's one of the reasons teenagers tend to rebel, because they know they've been taught things by their parents and by their schools and by society that they should be a certain way, and they really are developing and wanting to be who they are and find out who they are. So what I found with this life force energy is that it it has the ability to strengthen and improve your connection to your higher soul and the divine creator who created you. So when you have that connection, then you can be more of who you really are and make your own decisions and your own ideas about things instead of just accepting what everybody told you or what you were taught.
I think that's really an interesting point of view, because as I was growing up, I always thought the whole reason that we went to college really was to open up our minds and to learn how to think for ourselves so that we could make decisions based on us and not about the group of people. So right now in the world today, do you have any examples of groupthink or how individuals are allowing themselves to get disconnected from the creator by following a groupthink? Are there any?
I think it's even more powerful today, the groupthink, because of the internet. And there's an energy when a group consciousness has emotion to it. It doesn't really have intellect. It doesn't really work on reason. It works by emotion. And that emotion can become like a huge wave and overtake people. And so something could happen, it could be something political, or there's a shooting, or there's, anything that happens and it comes on the news. And then you see everybody getting all involved and having their opinions on what they think should be done without even knowing what the facts are and without really looking to what the root of the problem is. Right away, people want to go and make new laws because it's something that happened. And making a new law is not usually the way to go, because usually we have to look to something deeper, to the cause of when there's a problem that comes about. And we're having more shootings in this country, and we didn't have that when I was growing up. The guns were still available. I don't think there's really much change in that. So there's some kind of there's a group psychology that happens where maybe people start thinking that that's okay to do. And then there's also the group psychology of people's reaction to that. And then you go online, and then it just builds and builds and builds. And that's just one little example. But there's really small examples too, like styles. If you watch something like House Hunters, and you see, I see people all the time, and they say, oh, that's my style. The white kitchen, the stainless steel, the white countertops, that's my style. But if you ask them, I don't know, if it was 5 years ago, then their style might have been, more Tuscan with dark cabinets and a tile or granite counters. And they don't even realize that they're not making these decisions. They're just being swept up into the group thought of what's in style. And so if you can really be strong, connected in yourself, then you can recognize that and you can make your decisions based on what you want. You can still decide you want to be in style, but make it your decision, not just because you're swept away by the energy of the group, because there really is this energetic component, and it's very emotional, and it really can take over people, and it can really take away their inability to think for themselves. And they think they are thinking for themselves, but they're really not.
I can see that. And I think the style is actually a very light example of how people are swept away in a group thing, because, whether or not you want a white kitchen or a granite kitchen, because I was actually remembering when the granite and everything was really popular. And I live in Florida, and often people have a tendency to go light colors because it's hot. But then I also see in many of the newer houses that they've gone with the national trends, the darker wooden stuff. And this, again, the last time I was in a new house was probably 5 years ago. But what you're saying, I think, is really important for people to understand, that especially with social media, and because our social media profiles and our platforms are actually so small, our view of the world gets very skewed in our perceptions. Because if you're, for example, active on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, you're only seeing a very minute percentage of people in the real world. So we actually don't really see the bigger picture of the world. And like you said, it is easy to just form your opinion and get swept away with, if you think, yes, that's the opinion I want to have, and these people agree with me, so therefore the rest of the world must be thinking in this same way. So tell me more about, how does the life force energy healing help you become more of an independent thinker, or does it?
It does, because the more that you are connected with your higher soul, the more you're connected with who you really are. So when your mental body and your emotional body, so your thoughts and your emotions are aligned, then you can connect to your higher soul, and through that, the divine aspect of you. And what the life force energy does, that I transmit to people, it helps align their mental and emotional body so that it improves the connection and the communication between the soul and the brain via the mind. And so then they can be stronger in who they are and what they are really getting, and what is their real opinion and their real thoughts about things. And you can get more inspiration and thoughts that nobody else had. You become more creative and not just copying everybody else. And the thing that happens also is, like, when people are in these crowds and in these belief systems, like you said, in social media, a lot of times the people that you like are the ones that are going to keep showing up. So you keep seeing the same people, and your vision is actually blurred. The more you raise your consciousness, then you can see more perspectives. It's like you're seeing from a mountaintop instead of a valley. And so you can see more. You can make wiser decisions, and you're not going to be controlled. So you're really more free. There's a sense of freedom, and with the idea of thinking for yourself. And I want to talk about a little bit about a show that I saw on TV the other night that really made me want to talk about this even more. And it was a show about Scientology and Jehovah's Witness people, and they were people that had come out of those groups, and how they were so indoctrinated, the kids that grew up in those belief systems, that that's all they thought they could be. And then even when they came out of the groups, they couldn't tell if they wanted to do something because of their conditioning from being in those groups, or if it was really who they were and what they wanted to do. They couldn't even tell anymore what was what, because it was so indoctrinated into them, and they felt they didn't have the freedom to be who they were. And so that's a big example, but it really goes to everything, just every school. I mean, we're taught the history books. Well, who wrote the history books? That can influence how we think about history and how we think about the world and the different nations and the different races. Who wrote the history books? So if we can just try to have that ability to go inside and get our own answers as to what's right and what isn't, or how we want to think about things. So this energy that aligns us. It's like a magnet. A simple piece of lead has the atoms going all different which ways, crisscross all over. But a magnet, they're all lined up. And then that power from the universe can run through that magnet. And then the magnet has power and it has ability. So it's like that. When we become aligned, then we have the power, and then we have courage. We have the courage to stand up and speak what we believe, because that's not an easy thing to do. There's kind of like a political correctness that happens, or, just an idea that a group has. And if you think differently, it's not easy to stand up and say that you think differently. But how can we also grow as a culture if we don't allow people to think differently and really be free, not only freedom of speech, but freedom of thought? And we don't even realize we don't have freedom of thought because we think that this is our thought. But if you understand energy, when people understand energy, you understand that you're in an ocean. When you're in a crowd, you're in an ocean of that energy, and you don't have to be physically in that crowd, because it's just always being a part of a group, and you're in that ocean of energy of that way of thinking.
So do you find that, so obviously we have a few billion people on Earth, I think, living on this planet right now. And I know, for example, when you talk about culture and even countries, like I know people in the United States collectively probably think a lot differently than people in, let's say, China or India, just because of where they are and their cultures and everything. Do you find in your experience that how many people out of the billions of people who are living on Earth think about the energy or the way they're actually living and their thought processes, and actually are making this connection with energy, not in terms of religion or dogma, but that true connection and understanding that they are, needing to break loose into this, being able to think and not to have their thoughts basically fed to them like in this group energy. What do you think about, as obviously it's a big planet with a lot of people, but
right. I think most people don't think about it. They may think about it in retrospect. After they look back on a situation, then they may realize that they were just following someone else's belief. Particularly in political things, you may look back and see, oh, I was just following someone's beliefs. So like the people that came out of the Scientology group, and they saw that they were just following what they were told to do. The thing about crowd consciousness is that crowd consciousness, because it's just emotional, there's usually in a crowd, that energy is looking for a leader. It looks for leaders, that energy. Who's going to direct it? And so sometimes there is someone behind the energy that's really directing it and trying to lead people to believe a certain way. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it's just someone that's part of it that understands how this group feels, and they want to stand up and express and give direction to that energy. So sometimes it's that. And then sometimes there's people that come up as leaders where they're just decide to be a representative of the group energy. So when they're a representative of the group energy, then they try to represent that group, even when they don't necessarily always believe it. And I'm not saying that groups are bad, because united we stand, divided we fall. We can do a lot as a group. So I'm not saying that groups are bad or leaders are bad, but we just want to make sure that we're thinking for ourselves and that we're strong enough to make sure that we make decisions based on alertness and not just be swept away into these huge thought forms. And so the only way to do that is to really find your own connection and strengthen that and get the power from that, and that alignment of the mental and emotional aspects of you aligning with your higher soul and aligning with the creator and aligning with nature. That's what gives you the power. That's what gives you the ability to see things different, because it raises your consciousness, so then you can see things beyond what everybody else is saying. Your vision isn't so blurred, and then you can make your decisions consciously.
So would you say that part of our life's journey is to get connected to our higher self and the God of our understanding, and to get reconnected or connected to the life force energy? Is that part of what we're all seeking?
Yeah, I think there's an innate desire or a draw to go back to the creator. That's very deep in everyone. And we are seeking that. We can develop. There's levels, no matter. It's not like, okay, now I'm connected. And everybody is connected to some point, but it could be like a thin hair, or it can be a wider connection, like a connection to the internet can be something very slow, or it can be a much stronger, faster connection with better and clearer communication. So this point of the desire to go back to the creator and the desire to be loved by our creator is something really innate in everyone. And if you start looking, you'll see that everyone is looking to be loved. We look on this planet, we look for the approval of our parents. And that's a physical manifestation of that same desire. We want to be loved and approved by our parents. And we also want to be, but deeper than that, the real desire is to be loved and approved by our creator, by the God. And it's just so strong. And when you think about it, when we have thoughts and when we create things, like there's this saying, everything you put out will come back to you. Well, why? Because if you have a thought form and that thought form goes out into the universe, out into the world, that thought form's just like you. It wants to be loved and approved by its creator, so it comes back to you. And it wants to manifest what you made it for. So if you have a thought form for something really nice, there's more chance that that's going to happen because that thought form has that same feeling like we have. It's so innate in everybody to want to go back to the creator. So even of your thoughts. So if you think about your thoughts in that way and start watching it, even watch on television shows, watching your people that you know, and you'll start seeing this is really deep in everybody. And then watch your thoughts, because realize if you're having a thought or if you're creating a project, that project has energy. And so that energy we want to fulfill our purpose, right? I want to fulfill, what is the purpose the creator created me? I don't know, but I want to fulfill my purpose, the reason the creator made me. So why wouldn't our projects want to fulfill what we created them to be? So there's an energetic component to that they want to actually create. So if I'm thinking, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm so fat or ugly or whatever, those thought forms are going to go out there and try to fulfill the purpose that I created them for. So be careful. Be careful what you think. And so this is also part of it, because it's not a simple thing to really think for yourself, because it's not only the interference from crowd, but there's other aspects too, where we think we're thinking for ourselves, but it's actually just a desire or an emotion, or we're picking up a thought from someone else, or it could be an illusion, it could be our ego. So the stronger that we get our connection to our soul, to our higher soul, then the better we'll be at really finding our real true thought forms, and we won't be so distracted or fooled into the illusions that we can even have in our own mind.
Wow, it's very complex, and I can understand why so many people have, it's a lot easier just to follow the group if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I imagine that's probably why so many people, they just go with the flow, in that sense of going, it's just easier to let somebody else say this is the way to do it. And you go, yeah, sounds good to me, and just go with it. So when you work with people, can you tell me a little bit more about how you work with people?
Okay, the way I work with people is I mostly work with people on a membership basis, where I work with them on an ongoing basis. And what I do is I harness the life force energy, the specific intelligent life force energy, and then I'm able to transmit it to people while they're sleeping, so they don't need to be doing anything. I transmit it to them while they're sleeping, and what that does, it aligns them so that they have that stronger connection with their soul, and that their higher soul can communicate better with their brain. And through their higher soul, there's that connection also goes deeper to the divinity within them. And so they get that communication while they're asleep, and that can begin to transform their lives. So sometimes people just want a one-time consultation, so I can do it one time, but I really like to work with it on a membership basis so that people can continually transform and get deeper and stronger and more in their power, more able to be who they really are and access their creativity and their own inspirations come.
That's beautiful. So how can people get in contact with you? What's your website address?
Okay, my website address is patricia-rowe.com. So that's PATRICIA-ROWE.com. And if anyone that's listening to this is interested in going further in this subject, if you go to my website, put in your name and email in the contact form in the footer of any page, and then send me an email, because my email's on the website, and just write guidance on the email. And I'm going to write up, I haven't written it yet, so give me a little time if you after you send it. I will email a more detailed information about when we try to get guidance from within, there's different types of guidance. And because the more that you understand the different types, then you can be wiser about discerning where you're getting your information from.
Oh, wow. That's really super. So visit patricia-rowe.com and click on the contact us form. It's really easy to find. And then, of course, you can just write a short message, guidance, and Patricia will send you that form. And then, of course, if you want to make an appointment for more information, you can do that too. So before I let you go, Patricia, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on today?
I just want to quote someone that I saw on that show the other night because it was so great. He said, "Paradise is being able to think for yourself."
Wow. Paradise is being able to think for yourself. That is a wonderful way to end the program today. So everyone, think for yourself and you'll find paradise. Go have a beautiful day.
You've been listening to the Thought Leaders Show. To get all past shows and to get all future shows, go to thoughtleadersshow.com.